Welcome to this video podcast. I'm glad that y'all have joined in to listen to my story. I always wanted to tell my story. In fact, I also wrote one chapter that began with the epilogue. It is actually the story of my family. My dad was a big storyteller, and I wanted to put pen to paper and put all these beautiful memories and stories of the yesteryears of me growing up, my dad growing up, and in this beautiful and diverse country. So the epilogue went like this. I was at Sunset Point on a bench in Matheran. My wife was sitting at the side of me, and my arm was around her, and we were waiting for the sun to set. And as it went over the horizon, I picked my wife up and by the hand, and I told her, "Come, it's time to tell the story." So here it is. I'm here to tell this beautiful and story of my life and the life of my community in this beautiful and diverse country. I was born in a village in Gujarat. It is called Valsad now. It was called Balsar there. It was a railway colony, and as you can see the model of the train out there, a new picture of the station. Many years later, when I went back to that station, there were still tongas there, horse and carriage. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed stepping down to the place of my birth. This railway colony was actually filled with a lot of people from my community, the Anglo-Indian community there. And there were plenty of good stories which my father told me about the functions in the Railway Institute. Not forgetting to mention the fancy dress cricket matches where the boys dressed like girls and the girls dressed like boys, and the boys had to bat left-handed. Oh, what lovely stories he told me about these days of theirs in Balsa. This is how we looked, dressed and looked. These are some photographs of my relatives. I was born in Valsad and I was baptized in this church. These are some photographs which I downloaded from the internet. This is St. Anthony's Church. It is in this church that is closely connected with the history of the Anglo-Indians and my community in this railway colony at Balsad. My grandmother was married in this church from my mother's side. My mother was baptized in this church. My sister and my mama was married in this church, and my sister and I were also baptized in this church, in this St. Anthony Church. Many years later, as I told you, I had the occasion of going back to Balsar or Valsad as it is called now. I saw this church graveyard which had even graves from the mid-19th century. Oh, what a feeling it was going back to the place of my birth. So I just want to take you all through this journey of how I grew up. My story is about a story of where I grew up in a beautiful, diverse and beautiful India. It is a story of being Indian and Christian, and it cannot be disconnected because it is also a story of Jesus Christ and his rule in my life. I'll tell you that I was born in the railway hospital in Valsad. As a child, I had no consciousness of either being Indian or Christian or anything. I was just a baby. And the first title that I got was a baptism certificate from this church of mine. And this baptism certificate read Anglo-Indian as nationality. many years later, when I grew up, I was very confused and surprised till one of my relatives, a senior uncle, told me that at independence we were offered territory, and which we refused. Our leaders refused and preferred to be in India. So join me and continue this journey with me. This title that I acquired on my baptism certificate is something that was not of my choice. It's something that was put down on as a title given to me, as something that was, but that was not what. When Jesus Christ was teaching his apostles, when they were fighting over, what we should be, whether we should, how great a position can we have in the kingdom of God. And Jesus told them that you have to be like a child to enter the kingdom. You have to turn and become like a child, like an infant that I was as I was born, and not let all these baggages that are written on you, but let me write your story. Let me write your story. You can take my yoke upon you. That's what Jesus Christ said. And my yoke is easy and light. So that's it, my folks, for today. Join me again when next week, Monday, same time, 5 minutes.